In WWE, you don't just win with your moveset or your mic skills. You have to hold your ground under the cameras, the spotlight, and the judgment of millions. Looks can be an advantage, a pressure point, and sometimes the reason superstars turn to medical procedures to reshape their bodies. Cosmetic surgery, dental work, hair transplants, or even treatments to fix complications nobody ever wants to face. So what's really behind those changes? More confidence, more risk, or both? Today, we're breaking down each story as clearly as possible. Let's get into it. Wrestling Sphere, go! Number 14. Carmella. If you had to name one WWE star whose appearance gets picked apart the most on social media, Carmella is absolutely on that list. Every time she shows up looking a little sharper, a little more glam, the plastic surgery rumors flare up all over again. Instead of letting the talk drag on forever, Carmella chose to confront it head-on in an official WWE YouTube video, where she made it clear she's never had anything done to her face. No dancing around it, no distractions. She said it like she wanted to shut down the speculation right from the start. But Carmella also didn't try to sell an image of being perfect with zero flaws. She admitted she has breast implants, and she emphasized that it was her personal choice, not something shameful and not something she needs to hide. What bothered her more was something else. People insisting her face was fake, as if women aren't allowed to change, take care of themselves, or simply look different over time. Carmella even called fans out directly, basically saying, if you're going to judge, stick to facts, don't turn your feelings into a verdict. What's especially interesting is that WWE decided to put a topic like this on an official platform. With WWE's PG direction, cosmetic surgery is usually treated like a taboo subject because it's easy to spark controversy. But WWE seems to understand one thing. Audiences today are curious, blunt, and they want honesty more than some polished, pre-packaged image. And the results proved it wasn't a pointless risk. That video crossed 700,000 views, and for once, Carmella was the one in control of her own story. Number 13. Kiana James. Kiana James had a stretch where everything looked like it was finally clicking. She got called up to the main roster and showed up with the vibe of a character who knew exactly who she was, and what she wanted. Then, in classic WWE fashion, she suddenly disappeared. No goodbye promo. No storyline explanation. No clear on-air statement. She was just gone, like she'd been pulled from the show overnight. That silence is what gave the rumors room to breathe. With no official explanation, fans started connecting dots on their own, and the biggest rumor was that James had taken time off to recover from a medical procedure to change her physique, specifically, breast augmentation. It sounded like the kind of backstage talk you always hear in entertainment, but what really fueled it was her next appearance on TV. Sharp-eyed viewers immediately noticed, Kiana looked different. Not new gimmick, different. More like an overall change in her proportions, how gear fit on her, and the way she stepped back into frame, like she'd been refreshed to match the image WWE wanted. To be fair, Kiana James has never confirmed whether she had anything done. And that's exactly why the story stays in that gray zone. No public proof, just speculation. But for fans, sometimes a noticeable change on television is enough to end the debate. They believe something happened, because if not, why vanish with no explanation, then return with a look that makes people pause for a few seconds? Whatever the truth is, Kiana's situation highlights something real. In WWE, where appearance is part of the brand, staying quiet for a while can turn a normal break into a full-blown topic that gets dissected down to the smallest detail. Number 12. Buff Bagwell. For Buff Bagwell, his look was never just nice to have. It was his brand, the thing that helped him stand tall in the 90s, in an era packed with larger-than-life bodies where everyone wanted to look carved out of stone. Bagwell understood that, and because of it, he made a decision that still makes people blink: calf implants. On paper, it sounds like a small upgrade, fixing one detail to make the whole physique look more complete. Bigger, tighter calves pop better on camera, look stronger in poses, and balance out the silhouette. But the problem is, the human body isn't a display piece. Once you mess with it, you're also messing with real risk. And Bagwell ended up on the wrong side of that gamble. Calf implants aren't just cosmetic, they can come with complications. In his case, it got serious enough that he had to have them removed because they were believed to be affecting blood circulation down to his foot. What started as a move to look better quickly became something genuinely scary. One bad outcome, and the price isn't about aesthetics anymore, it's about your health. But the most bitter part of the story wasn't even the medical side. It was the WCW locker room. Former WCW President Eric Bischoff said on his podcast that Bagwell became a constant target for jokes backstage. He basically described it as something the entire roster knew about, laughed about, and talked about openly, like Bagwell had become the day's entertainment. And it wasn't just a couple quick one-liners. The teasing dragged on, and it turned Bagwell's return into a real mental test. Bischoff also added a pretty cutting observation. He suggested Bagwell might have seen big calves as one of the most important things in his life. He even guessed that Bagwell wearing long pants could have been tied to insecurity about having smaller calves. Whether that's true or not, only Bagwell really knows. But one thing is clear. In an environment where people judge you down to the centimeter, a decision about your appearance can leave a lasting psychological scar. And it didn't end there. In the years that followed, Bagwell dealt with more health scares, and he even faced serious leg-related issues after a car accident. It's a story that starts with, "I want to look better," but ends with a chilling reminder. In wrestling, your body is your livelihood, and when you alter it, you're also betting on your future. Number 11. The Rock. The Rock is the kind of guy you'd think could never show a weak spot. He's a muscle icon, the face of Hollywood-style masculinity, and in the ring he looked like a machine built to win. But what made a lot of people respect him even more wasn't a rock bottom or a fiery promo. It was the fact that he spoke openly about something most men would rather hide: gynecomastia. If you're not familiar, gynecomastia is when male breast tissue grows more than it should. It can happen on one side or both, and it isn't always about being out of shape. Sometimes it's genetics, sometimes it's hormone shifts, and sometimes it's just your body going through changes you can't fully control. And for someone who lives on image like The Rock, where every camera angle exaggerates every detail, that's not a small thing. You can be the final boss on screen, but in the mirror, even one little detail can bother you every single day. The key is, The Rock didn't dodge it. He had surgery in the 2000s and later said publicly that it was an aesthetic choice. No blaming pressure. No turning it into a tragic story to win sympathy. He basically said, "I wanted to look better, I did it, and I'm not ashamed." That attitude is what set him apart, because in sports entertainment, where your look is almost part of the job contract, a lot of people would avoid the topic, afraid of jokes, afraid of being labeled less manly. The Rock did the opposite. He made the truth part of his story. And once he said it out loud, it stopped being just a celebrity detail. It quietly gave other people permission to breathe. If there are things you didn't choose, and you decide to deal with them, that isn't weakness. That's control. In a world where wrestlers are expected to look invincible, The Rock owning a surgery for his appearance became one of his most human moments. And sometimes, that honesty makes a final boss look even tougher than the muscles do. Number 10. Roman Reigns. When you step into WWE, you're not just fighting, you're on camera. And live television is brutal. The lens gets right up in your face, the lights hit every detail, and your smile, whether it's a smirk or a victory grin, shows up crystal clear. So for a top-level star, great teeth aren't just a nice to have. They're part of the brand. Some wrestlers go with whitening, some do minor fixes, and some take the option that's instantly obvious: veneers. Roman Reigns falls into that last group. And it doesn't look like it was a one-and-done situation. Over time, it seems like Reigns has gotten veneers more than once, like each stage of his presentation got tightened up one extra notch. That makes sense. Roman isn't just another name on the roster. He's the poster guy, the centerpiece, the face WWE wants you to recognize at a glance. When you carry that role, everything, hair, beard, skin, and yes, even your teeth, has to match the image. What's interesting is when Reigns first showed off his new smile in 2020, fans didn't all react the same way. Not everyone said, "That looks amazing." A lot of people actually paused because those teeth were bright, glossy, perfectly even, so white they almost looked like a filter. Sometimes they were so bright they could steal attention from his facial expression. And of course, the internet did what the internet does best. It turned it into debate, then jokes, then memes. But if you zoom out, it says something very WWE. In a world where appearance is part of the script, veneers aren't just cosmetic, they help keep the character larger than life. When Roman walks out looking polished from the stare, to the aura, to the smile, he's reinforcing the exact persona he's built. Someone who doesn't just dominate with power, but with presence. And sometimes, a small change like teeth is enough to remind you, in WWE, even a smile can be a weapon. Number 9. Vince McMahon. Over the last few years, Vince McMahon has basically faded from the spotlight. A man who used to be everywhere on TV, stepping into the ring like the entire company was in his hands, suddenly became someone you rarely saw in public. So when he was unexpectedly caught on camera in 2025, fans didn't freeze because he was back in WWE, and not because of some shocking statement. They froze because his face looked noticeably different. A lot of people immediately assumed McMahon had gotten a facelift. His face looked tighter, like the features had been pulled back, giving the impression he was trying to push himself into a much younger version of his real age. And because Vince has always been known for controlling his image, that change set off a wave of debate. Was this real cosmetic work, or was it just angles, lighting, or the way the footage was handled? Then came the makeup talk. McMahon had appeared on camera with a pretty noticeable layer of makeup, and that sparked another round of speculation. Some fans believed it was meant to cover imperfections, and a few even ran with the idea of a botched procedure being hidden. Of course, none of that is confirmed. But the point is, the difference was big enough that people couldn't ignore it. By the summer of 2025, when McMahon showed up in a documentary connected to Hulk Hogan, the conversation jumped again. Jim Ross even mentioned McMahon's new look on his podcast, which only added to the sense that it wasn't just fans imagining things. And even though Vince has never publicly confirmed surgery, the overall feeling is still pretty clear. Sometime in the last 5 years, he did something to change his appearance. Just compare the before and after images, and you'll understand why seeing him in 2025 hit fans the way it did. Number 8. Chyna. With Chyna, cosmetic work was almost never something she felt the need to hide. She lived in a world where the body wasn't just appearance, it was a statement. And Chyna always wanted that statement to be crystal clear, stronger, sharper, and so distinct that nobody could ever mistake her for anyone else. So it's no surprise that over the years, people have viewed her surgeries as part of the way she built and reinforced her image. Back in the 1990s, when Chyna was still wrestling in WWE and riding her peak, she had jaw surgery. This wasn't the kind of change you only notice if you stare long enough. It was the type of procedure that can noticeably reshape a face and shift your overall look in a big way. And because WWE at the time magnified everything under bright lights and close-up cameras, Chyna looking different naturally sparked rumors, from talk about image pressure to speculation that someone behind the scenes pushed her toward it. But according to Road Dogg, one of Chyna's close friends, he said on a podcast that it was Chyna's decision, not something WWE management encouraged or forced. He even said he couldn't picture a conversation where someone sat her down and told her to do it, because the people around her cared about her, and making her change her face wasn't something he believed was on their minds. In other words, he didn't claim to know every single detail, but he strongly leaned toward one conclusion: Chyna did it because she wanted to. And that wasn't all. Chyna also reportedly had breast implants more than once, which tied into the way she shaped her body to match the image she was chasing. Even more striking, there's been talk that one implant ruptured after a physical collision in the ring with Savio Vega, a detail that instantly shows how thin the line is between cosmetic and dangerous in wrestling. So Chyna's story isn't just about looking a certain way. It's about a woman who made her own choices, but also paid a price in a profession where one hard impact can turn a personal decision into a very real consequence. Number 7. Nikki Bella. Nikki Bella has never been the type to dodge the sensitive questions. For years, she spoke openly about getting breast implants as part of her personal choice and her on-camera image. For Nikki, it wasn't something to hide or sugarcoat. She did it, she owned it, and she moved forward. But in 2025, that decision, something most people would file under cosmetic, almost turned into a genuinely scary moment in a business as physical as WWE. In the summer of 2025, Nikki returned to the ring. There's always a different kind of energy when she comes back. Fans are curious, the media pays attention, and Nikki herself carries the feeling of stepping into a new chapter. But all it takes is one hit in the wrong spot to change everything. During a match on Raw, Nikki took an elbow from Piper Niven. On TV, it might have looked like a standard, by-the-book shot, just another moment in a wrestling match. But for the body, it wasn't standard at all. After that elbow, Nikki revealed that an implant shifted, sliding toward her rib area. And that's the kind of detail that makes your stomach drop, because it's not soreness that fades in a couple days. It's the type of issue that can lead to complications if it's ignored or handled the wrong way. Nikki said the concern was serious enough that she had to take an entire day off just to get checked out. Not push through it. Not finish the week. This time, she had to put health first, because she understands how thin the line is between toughness and recklessness. Nikki's story drives home a reality. In WWE, your look can be part of the character, but the ring doesn't care who you are or how good you look. One mistimed impact, one slightly wrong angle, and your body answers with something very real. And for Nikki, that 2025 implant shift was a chilling reminder that sometimes the thing you carry to feel more confident can also become your most vulnerable point the moment the bell rings. Number 6. Charlotte Flair. For Charlotte Flair, appearance was never just about looking good on camera. She's a top-tier star, someone positioned at the highest level where every step onto the stage feels like a statement. I belong at the top. And like many people in entertainment, Charlotte made a choice that's common on paper: breast implants. It's often considered a relatively safe procedure, done all the time, and most of the time it goes fine. But life doesn't run on most of the time. If you land in the unlucky percentage, everything can change fast. Not long after her win at WrestleMania 34, Charlotte said she suddenly became seriously sick. This wasn't normal exhaustion from travel or the usual aches from training. It felt different, heavier, and it made her realize something wasn't right. After seeing doctors, she was told she was dealing with a serious issue that she described as silicone poisoning connected to the implants. Just hearing that is unsettling. Because for a wrestler, your body isn't just personal health, it's your livelihood. It's what lets you take bumps, get back up, keep filming, keep working show after show. And here, what was supposed to be an upgrade, became a ticking problem inside her own body. Charlotte said doctors told her the level of poisoning was among the worst they'd seen. This wasn't, take a few meds and rest for a weekend. It was serious enough that she had to step away from WWE programming for a period of time to deal with it and recover. And that's the scariest part. Complications like this don't come with a warning bell. They can hit while you're at your peak, right after a huge WrestleMania moment, when everyone assumes you're untouchable. Charlotte's story is a slap in the face to the illusion that beauty equals safety. It's a reminder that in WWE, where people chase a more perfected version of themselves, the real cost isn't always money or rumors. Sometimes it's being forced to leave the ring behind, just to fight your way back to the one thing that matters most, your health. Number 5. Stephanie McMahon. In July 2001, Stephanie McMahon made a decision that, at the time, still drew all kinds of reactions. She got breast augmentation surgery. To outsiders, it might have looked like just another cosmetic choice in entertainment. But for Stephanie, someone who was both a WWE on-screen character and part of the most powerful family in the company, it instantly became public business. People stared, people talked, and if the crowd felt like it, it could be turned into a joke overnight. Just 1 month later, in August, Stephanie went on the Opie and Anthony show and confirmed the procedure herself. No dodging it, no spinning it. But she also shared one detail that made people pause. Her implants were swollen, and she was receiving treatment to keep things from getting worse. So this wasn't a simple, do it and you're instantly fine story. She had to deal with real post-surgery anxiety while still being watched under the public microscope. According to someone who would later be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, a fan sign mocking Stephanie played a role in her decision. And honestly, that feels very WWE. One cheap jab from the crowd can stick with you, especially in a world where appearance is constantly judged. In the end, Stephanie's goal was straightforward. She wanted to look in the mirror and feel okay, to see an image that matched the confidence she wanted to carry. The story got so big that in 2001, WWE.com even posted an interview with Linda McMahon, asking how she felt about her daughter getting the surgery. It sounds strange, but that was the era when WWE could turn almost anything into talking point content. Linda's response, though, was clear and practical. Her first concern was Stephanie's health. She said Stephanie researched it thoroughly, had answers for every question, and that's why Linda felt comfortable supporting her. So Stephanie's story isn't just about a procedure. It's a snapshot of image pressure in WWE, where you stand in front of cameras while also absorbing noise from the crowd, and a personal choice can become everyone's conversation. But Stephanie chose to speak for herself, own it, and take back control of her own image. Number 4. John Cena. If we're talking about WWE openly referencing cosmetic work on TV, you can't ignore the moments where they pushed the limits of what a PG product could get away with. The most infamous example is a controversial segment involving John Cena on Raw in 2014, the kind of scene that made it obvious WWE was testing how far they could stretch the line. But if you rewind to the early 2000s, the vibe was different. WWE didn't talk about these topics as openly or as often, to the point where Chris Jericho taking a shot at Stephanie on Raw felt both shocking and brutally pointed. Here's the irony. John Cena, one of the most beloved pro wrestlers of all time, spent years getting unfairly mocked for thinning hair and a bald spot. Those jokes often went way past harmless fun, because they had nothing to do with his ability in the ring. For some people, it was just an excuse to throw negativity at him, like attacking his appearance gave them permission to dismiss everything he'd accomplished. Then in 2024, Cena decided, enough. He chose to get a hair transplant, not to prove anything, but to finally end the constant spotlight on something he'd been dealing with for years. Speaking with people, Cena explained that the more he tried to hide the hair loss, the more the crowd highlighted it. He saw signs like the bold John Cena, basically calling him bald, and that's what pushed him to explore his options. Cena said he built a full routine around it: red light therapy, minoxidil, vitamins, plus the right shampoo and conditioner. Most importantly, he said he got a hair transplant in November of the previous year. And he admitted what bothered him most: if there hadn't been so much shame wrapped around the issue, he would have done it 10 years earlier. He also pointed out he wasn't alone. Most men deal with thinning hair or baldness to some degree. In the end, Cena said the transplant practically changed his life. It sounds simple, but for someone living under bright lights and constant judgment, it really was a kind of freedom. Number 3. Sunny. In the 1990s, if you're naming the women who truly popped in WWE, Sunny is almost impossible to skip. She was the original new generation era diva, not someone who just stood next to wrestlers as decoration, but someone who could turn every appearance into a moment that made the crowd look up. Sunny was remembered for her performance ability, for that mix of playful and confident energy as an on-screen manager, but more than anything, she was tied to what became her signature: a bold, sexy look that absolutely loved the camera. And Sunny never tiptoed around how she built that image. She openly admitted she had breast augmentation surgery during her time in the business. Not as some vague confession, and not as something she was forced to acknowledge after getting exposed. To Sunny, it was part of the game, a deliberate choice meant to keep her standing out in an environment where looks could be prioritized in a ruthless way. The era explains a lot, too. WWE was in a transition period, with late 80s and early 90s entertainment still shaping the vibe. Beauty came with heat, and the more eye-catching you were, the more attention you could pull. Sunny understood that unwritten rule. She knew that if she wanted to be noticed, she needed an image people couldn't confuse with anyone else. And for her, upgrading her figure was the fastest way to do it, a direct push on the exact thing TV cameras tend to grab first. But Sunny didn't do it just to get attention. She treated it like a way to claim power on screen, not a pretty accessory, not a side piece standing next to a male wrestler, but a real character with influence, someone who could steer the crowd's emotions through attitude and presence. Sunny has said in multiple interviews that the surgery made her feel more confident in front of the camera and in front of the audience. And for her, cosmetic work wasn't about chasing trends. It was a tool, a way to control her image and take the spotlight on her own terms, playing the game the way she understood it from day one. Number 2. Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss is the kind of star who can show up for 2 seconds and the crowd is already locked in. She stands out not just because she's versatile in the ring and sharp with her expressions, but because she has something that's rare in WWE: real blunt honesty. Bliss doesn't hide behind generic answers. When she talks about personal choices, she's clear, calm, and most importantly, she speaks like it's her right, not something she needs permission for. One of the biggest topics around Alexa is that she's had breast augmentation surgery. And what matters here is how she talks about it. She doesn't frame it like some backstage secret or a thing to cover up. Alexa has said straight up that the decision came from within, not from pressure inside pro wrestling. She's even emphasized that she did it before she ever set foot in WWE. So it wasn't a company requirement, and it wasn't some image direction from people in an office. It was a choice she had thought about for a long time, on her own terms. For Alexa Bliss, cosmetic work isn't a race to meet someone else's standards. She saw it as a way to feel more comfortable in her own body. And when she tells this story, you understand why it isn't shallow at all. Alexa has talked about dealing with eating disorders and long-term body image struggles, the kind where every look in the mirror turns into self-judgment. In that context, a medical procedure isn't just changing measurements. It feels more like taking control back, refusing to let insecurity drive the rest of your life. Alexa has shared that after the procedure, she felt more at ease when she looked in the mirror, and even more importantly, she felt more confident every time she stepped out in front of the audience. In a business where you're constantly watched, constantly evaluated, and filmed in close-up with every tiny detail exaggerated, real confidence can be worth more than a championship belt. And the way Alexa speaks about it is exactly why her story hits people. No dodging. No overselling it. No turning it into a pity play. She talks about it as part of who she is, and without even trying, she became a symbol for anyone learning how to love themselves, not just in the ring, but in everyday life too. Number 1. Eva Marie. Eva Marie came into WWE like a blazing red flame, literally and figuratively. The bright red hair, the sharp stare, the energy that says, "I walked in, so you're going to notice me." That's why she became a talked-about name fast after joining Diva Search in 2013. For Eva, from the very beginning, looks weren't just an advantage. They were her main weapon, the thing that helped her survive in an environment where every week someone new shows up, prettier, louder, and ready to take your spotlight if you're even one step behind. Because of that, Eva wasn't afraid to build her image in the most proactive way possible. Before she fully jumped into competing on WWE TV, she chose to get a few cosmetic procedures to upgrade her look and shape. First came a nose job, a change that might sound small, but it can completely affect the balance of a face, make features look more refined on camera, and give that sharper diva-style edge WWE leaned into at the time. But what surprised people even more was something she revealed on Total Divas. Eva also had breast augmentation surgery. And this wasn't vague rumor fuel, it was stated on the reality show, where things are often said in a way that feels real, but also leaves enough room for fans to talk about it all week. Eva explained that a silicone implant she'd gotten about 10 years earlier developed a leak. That's the part that shifts the whole story. Because cosmetic work doesn't always end at one procedure and you're done. Sometimes it comes with consequences, becomes a health issue, and forces you back into surgery again, not for aesthetics anymore, but because it has to be fixed for safety. And that's exactly what Eva Marie represents. In WWE, appearance can open doors faster than any skill set, but it's also a double-edged blade. You invest in your image to stand out, to become the focal point, to hold your place in a race that never really stops. But sometimes those upgrades come with quiet risks, and when they finally show up, it's no longer about looking good or not. It's about whether your body is still okay to keep walking into the spotlight. And those are the WWE stars who chose medical procedures to change their bodies, each with their own reason, their own price to pay, and a very real story behind the spotlight. If you want a part 2, make sure to like, drop a comment, and subscribe to Wrestling Sphere to support the channel.